The bracelet was last seen in October 1946. Then it disappeared, not mislaid, not stored. Disappeared in the manner that jewelry disappears when it has been stolen, reported to the police, entered into an insurance claim, paid out, and gone. The assumption, when something vanishes that way, is that it has been broken apart, the stones separated from the settings, the platinum melted, evidence dissolved into raw material. 41 years later, it reappeared under auction lights in Geneva. Not a bracelet resembling it, not a piece inspired by it. The same piece, described in the Sotheby's catalogue simply as, formerly the property of the Duchess of Windsor. No explanation for the gap, no account of where it had been. In legal terms, an object reported stolen and insured against loss belongs, upon settlement, to the insurer. What appears at auction 4 decades later is not a recovered stolen item. It is something that, according to every official record, should not exist. The catalogue was 144 pages long. It listed 37 lots of jewelry, together with furniture, silver, and personal effects from a house in Paris. Each piece was photographed against white silk. Each provenance notation read the same, formerly in the collection of the Duchess of Windsor. Not one page mentioned 1946. The room filled on the afternoon of the 2nd of April, 1987. Buyers had come from London, New York, Geneva, and the Gulf. The white gloves of the Sotheby's staff moved carefully from case to case. A panther brooch sat under a glass dome. Platinum, pavé diamonds, 2, cabochon, sapphire eyes. The woman who had reported such pieces stolen was dead. She had died 11 months earlier, in Paris, at 89. She was not there to explain. No one asked her to. To understand what that catalogue left out, you have to go back 50 years, not to the theft, not to the insurance claim. You have to go back to the moment a woman decided that a piece of jewelry was not decoration but armour, and to the woman who first understood how to make it that way. The panther had existed in the Cartier vocabulary since 1914, when the house first placed its image on a wristwatch as a flat pattern in black and yellow diamonds. It was a decorative motif, an accent, a surface. For 30 years it remained that, a silhouette applied to objects, rather than an object in itself. Jeanne Toussaint changed that. She had joined Cartier in the early 1920s and had risen, in a house run by men, during an era that found female creative authority somewhat inconvenient, to become its director of fine jewelry. The house gave her a nickname, La Panther. She was not a woman who wore jewelry to please a room. She was a woman who understood that an object could hold an argument, and that the argument depended entirely on the form the object took. What Toussaint did, in the years following the Second World War, was lift the panther off the surface and give it a body. She transformed it from a pattern into a sculpture. The panther became three-dimensional, articulated, capable of movement. It could coil around a wrist, it could sit on a shoulder, it could crouch at the base of a throat. It was no longer a decoration applied to jewelry. It was jewelry that had become an animal. When Wallis Simpson appeared in the Cartier atelier, Toussaint saw something she recognized. 2 women who had constructed their positions from outside the structures designed to confer them. Toussaint had fought for creative authority in a house that had not initially offered it. Wallis had fought for social standing in a country that had decided, before meeting her properly, that she was a problem. Neither had been given what she wanted, both had taken it. Toussaint said, on more than one occasion, that Wallis Simpson was the only woman she had ever met who was truly worthy of the panther. Not because of her beauty or her connections, because of her refusal. The panther, in Toussaint's understanding of what she had made, belonged on the body of someone who understood what a declaration cost. By the time Edward VIII abdicated, on the 11th of December, 1936, Wallis Simpson had been the subject of sustained public scrutiny for the better part of 2 years. Every newspaper had a position. Most were not favorable. She was described as a social climber, an adventuress, a woman of uncertain background who had somehow displaced every institution that had shaped the man she was with. The language used about her in certain establishment circles was not subtle. The institution had decided she did not exist in any form. It was prepared to accommodate. Edward's abdication broadcast was heard by an estimated 200 million people. He gave up an empire. He drove away from Fort Belvedere in the early hours of the morning and did not return. What followed was exile in the administrative sense. The British government made clear, with the precision governments deploy when they wish to wound without appearing to, that the Duchess of Windsor would not receive the title, Her Royal Highness. The Royal Letters Patent of the 28th of May, 1937, specified that the Duke retained his royal title, but that his wife would not share it. 3 letters withheld, a single clause in a legal document. It meant that every time Wallis Simpson was introduced at any formal occasion, she was introduced as less than her husband. The gap was 3 letters wide. It was also permanent. She received this information and continued to dress for dinner. In the years that followed, the Duke and Duchess settled into a life that was, by any ordinary measure, exceptional. Villa Windsor in Paris, summers in the south of France, winters in the Bahamas, dinners in New York. They were photographed constantly, and Wallis understood photography the way a general understands terrain. She wore Cartier the way other women wore a title. The first sculptural panther pieces from Toussaint's atelier arrived in Wallis's collection in the late 1940s and early 1950s. The flamingo brooch came earlier, in 1940. Rubies, emeralds, sapphires and diamonds, the feathers rendered in colored stones with the precision of something observed rather than imagined. The tiger clips. And then, in 1952, the piece that would outlast everything, the Panther bracelet, platinum, pavé diamonds, 2 cabochon sapphire eyes, articulated so that it moved with the wrist, which was the point. A rigid bracelet announces itself once, a flexible one announces itself continuously. Every time Wallis raised a glass, or turned a page, or extended her hand across a dinner table, the panther shifted. There was also the natural pearl necklace that had once belonged to Queen Mary. Edward's mother had spent years making her view of her son's wife evident in correspondence, and in the particular coldness of her formal communications. The necklace found its way to Wallis through the complications of inheritance that followed the abdication. The palace did not pursue its return. Wallis did not leave it in a drawer. By the late 1940s, she had built a collection that the specialists who catalogued it 4 decades later would describe as among the most significant private jewelry collections of the 20th century. Not simply in value, in coherence. Each piece had been acquired with an understanding of what it meant, rather than only what it cost. What it meant was a counter-argument. The argument, made in 3 withheld letters, was, "You are not one of us, and there is nothing you can do about it." The counter-argument, made in platinum and sapphire and natural pearl, was worn at dinner, worn to the races, worn in front of photographers from 3 continents. It said, "What is on this wrist is mine. You did not give it to me. You cannot remove it. And it is, if you care to notice, rather finer than most of what your institution keeps behind glass." Toussaint had been right. The panther belonged on the body of a woman who understood what a declaration cost. The house at Ednam Lodge in Berkshire belonged to the Earl and Countess of Dudley. In October 1946, the Windsors were staying there as guests during one of their visits to England. On the evening of the 16th, the Duke and Duchess drove to London for dinner at Claridge's. They sat with their hosts. The dining room was warm and quiet, silver on china, and the particular sound of a decanted wine. At Ednam Lodge, in a bedroom on the upper floor, a jewel case sat on a dressing table. Between 6 and 7 o'clock, while the 4 of them were at dinner, someone entered the house. The case was taken. Everything else was left. The police were called. A report was filed. Detectives examined the room. The case had been found in the garden, empty. The investigation proceeded for several weeks. No arrests were made. No jewelry was recovered. The case was closed. The insurance claim followed. The total insured value of the missing pieces was recorded at over £87,000. In 1946, that figure represented what a professional household might accumulate across several generations of careful saving. The insurers examined the claim, conducted their own inquiries, and paid. And the pieces disappeared from every official record. The collection stolen that evening was distinct from the pieces Wallis would later commission from Toussaint in the early 1950s. The Panther brooch, the flamingo, the tiger clips. These were the earlier acquisitions, the pieces that had accompanied her through the abdication years and the war and the slow construction of a life in Paris. They were not simply valuable. They were, in the language Wallis had been using since 1937, her argument, her visible evidence that she had not diminished. What happened next is where the historical record becomes, in the words of researchers who have returned to these documents in the decades since, a sequence of coincidences that raises questions it cannot answer. Researchers who examined the insurance records and post-war correspondence later noted the following, that, in the months before October 1946, Wallis Simpson had received approaches through intermediaries from private dealers interested in purchasing portions of her collection, that she had declined each approach, that the motivation for declining, reconstructed from secondary correspondence, appeared to be less about attachment to the objects than about what selling them would require her to acknowledge. To sell jewellery, even privately, is to be a person who is selling jewellery. It is to present yourself to a transaction, and a transaction requires you to name what you need. Wallis Simpson had spent a decade constructing the image of a woman who had not fallen. That image could not survive a visit to a dealer's back office. She needed money. The life at Villa Windsor was not inexpensive. The staff, the house, the clothes required for the continuous performance of not having declined. Edward's income had its limits. She needed money. She could not be seen to need it. And then, in October 1946, she was robbed. Whether the robbery was what it was reported to be, the historical record does not confirm. What it offers instead is this: the insured value was paid. The investigation was closed. The pieces were never recovered by any conventional means. And, 41 years later, according to researchers who have compared the 1,946 insurance inventory against the 1,987 Sotheby's catalogue, certain items that bore a striking correspondence to those reported stolen appeared once more in Geneva under the lights. The evidence does not speak. It simply remains. The jewellery that Wallis Simpson reported stolen on the night of the 16th of October, 1946, carried a combined insured value of over £87,000. The police investigation was closed within weeks. No arrests were made. No jewellery was recovered. The insurers paid. And somewhere, the Panther waited. Pride does not feel like pride from the inside. From the inside, it has the texture of logic. Of course, you do not sell the thing that tells the room who you are. Of course, you do not carry a jewel case to a dealer's counter and wait while someone writes a number on a card. Of course, you do not allow the public record to show that the woman for whom a king left an empire ended at a transaction window. Of course, you find another way. The other way required a story. The story was this: we were victims. Someone came into the house while we were at dinner. They took what was ours. We reported it honestly. We cooperated. We claimed what the insurance policy entitled us to claim. We are not responsible for the failure to recover the property. We are the ones who suffered the loss. It was a story that required the maintenance of a version of events that could not withstand close examination. For 40 years, no one withstanding to pursue it chose to. Edward died in May 1972 at the house in the Bois de Boulogne. He had been ill for some time. The Queen visited him 10 days before his death. What passed between them has not been recorded. Wallis outlived him by 14 years. The last years were difficult. Her health declined slowly. The circle of visitors contracted. The house grew quieter. She was not photographed wearing the early Panther pieces after 1946. She kept the stones. She kept the gold from the pieces commissioned after the claimed theft. The only thing she could not keep was the version of herself she had spent 30 years constructing, the woman things were taken from, not the woman who did the taking. That version had required her to be wronged, denied, the injured party in every account of her own life. It was the version that made the most coherent narrative. It was also the version most thoroughly complicated by the evening of the 16th of October, 1946. Wallis Simpson died on the 24th of April, 1986. She was 89 years old. She had outlived the king who abdicated for her, the queen who refused to meet her, the designer who said she was the only woman worthy of the Panther, and nearly everyone else who had known her when she was the subject of newspaper editorials and parliamentary debate. She was buried beside Edward at Frogmore in the grounds of Windsor Castle. The British royal family attended. The 3 letters HRH did not appear on her headstone. 11 months later, Sotheby's Geneva prepared its catalogue. The sale was scheduled for the 2nd and 3rd of April, 1987. The estimate for the jewellery alone exceeded £2 million. By the time the final lot was concluded on the afternoon of the 3rd, the total for the collection had reached $53 million. It was, at that point, the highest sum ever achieved at auction for a single private jewellery collection. Every piece was described with technical precision: the cut, the carat, the metalwork, the provenance notation for each reed, formerly in the collection of the Duchess of Windsor. Among the lots was the Panther bracelet that Toussaint had designed in 1952, the piece that had arrived after the claimed theft rather than before it, the piece that researchers have described as the successor carrying the soul of what the earlier collection had meant: platinum, pavé diamonds, 2 cabochon sapphire eyes. It sold for more than 4 times its pre-sale estimate. 37 lots, not one line, about 1,946. Among the buyers were collectors from Europe, the United States, and the Gulf. Some were purchasing gemstones. Some were purchasing the story attached to the gemstones, which is a different transaction, though it takes place in the same room. The identity of the buyer for the Panther bracelet was not disclosed by Sotheby's. Jeanne Toussaint had died in 1978. She did not see the catalogue. She did not see the numbered paddles raised in the Geneva room, or the white gloves of the Sotheby's staff, lifting each piece from its case for the final time. She had stood at a workbench in Paris and transformed a flat pattern into a 3-dimensional animal, and she had said that Wallis Simpson was the only woman she had known who understood what the animal meant. The woman was gone. The catalogue listed 37 lots. It did not list the year 1946. No one who held the gavel that afternoon mentioned it. Sotheby's Geneva, April 1987. Lot 12. Flamingo, brooch, Cartier, rubies, emeralds, sapphires and diamonds, 1,940. Estimate, £60,000 to £80,000. Lot 31. Natural pearl necklace, formerly the property of Queen Mary. Estimate, £180,000 to £220,000. Lot 47. Cartier Panther bracelet, platinum, pavé diamonds, cabochon, sapphire eyes, 1,952. Estimate, £35,000 to £45,000. The bracelet sold for more than 4 times that figure. Jeanne Toussaint had sculpted it for a woman she described as the only person she had ever met who was truly worthy of wearing it. Not because of beauty or wealth, because of refusal. The Panther, Toussaint said, was not an ornament, it was a declaration. What it declared depended entirely on who was wearing it and what that person had done. In October 1946, the pieces in that jewel case made one declaration: these were stolen from me. In April 1987, under the lights in Geneva, with its sapphire eyes unchanged and its platinum unscratched, the bracelet made something closer to a statement of fact. I am still here. I was always here. I was simply waiting for the room to stop asking the wrong questions. The Panther was designed to be worn by a woman who feared nothing. It outlasted her by decades. Whether it understood what she had done with it is, of course, a different question entirely.